Is the Bible communist?
In the culture war we find ourselves in today, regarding that of capitalism and communism, I thought it an interesting idea to see what the Bible might say of this. Now, obviously, we have a multitude of different religious texts, but regarding the West, I figured the Bible is the most fitting. It is an interesting idea to say, what is the Bible? Is it pro-communist or pro-capitalist? There is a Christian denomination that calls themselves Christian Marxists. Now, they see that the Bible is inherently communist. I want to deconstruct this idea, and I want to explore the ideas and the biblical verses behind this Christian denomination. In terms of communism, there are 4 basic characteristics that need to be fulfilled for an idea to be classified as communist. They are a classless society, a society without social classes, eliminating distinctions between the bourgeoisie, the rich capitalist, and the proletariat, the poor working class. The common ownership of means of production, advocates for the collective ownership of production resources. Statelessness. In its purest form, communism envisions a society without a centralized state. And then one of the most famous quotes from Karl Marx is, "From each according to his ability, to each according to his need." Now, onto the idea of Christian Marxism. The reason why Christian Marxism isn't as popular as you might think is because Karl Marx was very critical of his views on religion. He famously said, "Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of a soulless condition. It is the opium of the people. The abolition of religion is the illusory happiness of the people in the demand for their real happiness. To call on them to give up their illusions about their condition is to call on them to give up a condition that requires illusions." Now, for one to be a Christian Marxist, you first have to bypass this idea that Marx had of religion. He states that religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature. Marx suggests that religion arises from the suffering and oppression experienced by individuals. He then goes on to say that the heart of a heartless world and the soul of a soulless condition. Marx sees religion as providing comfort and solace in a world that lacks compassion and humanity. He then goes on to say that it is the opium of the people. Here Marx draws an analogy between religion and opium. Opium, which is a powerful and addictive substance, can numb pain and induce a sense of well-being. Marx suggests that religion can function as a form of social and psychological anesthesia. The abolition of religion is the illusory happiness of the people, is the demand of their real happiness. Marx argues that getting rid of religion, which he sees as a false source of happiness, is a necessary step to achieving genuine happiness. And I feel this is the reason why we don't see as many Christian Marxists. But they nonetheless do still exist, and here are some of the axioms they operate on. In most Christian churches, like the Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox, they are viewed as bourgeoisie institutions, supporting the capitalist system. To grasp Jesus and the Bible without bias, it's essential to analyze their origins through historical materialism. Christianity is distinct because it emerged in conditions akin to modern capitalism, as Karl Kortzi pointed out in The Foundations of Christianity. They see Jesus as a proletarian, especially under Roman rule. The notion that he was a carpenter or stonemason, commonly known as tecton, further strengthens this notion. Jesus aligned with a millenarian movement. A millenarian movement is normally a social or religious movement that transforms the society. It normally goes along with a messianic figure or a age of utopia. Now, the Christian Marxists see Jesus' coming as this kingdom without injustice. Many of the Christian Marxists interpret this injustice or utopia state that Jesus is bringing in a rather postmodernist or pseudo-postmodernist way, where they interpret injustice in a way of non-hierarchical, non-patriarchal and non-imperialistic way, which I feel is not too factual. They argue that the core of Christianity is not creeds or beliefs, but taking the cross, this ultimate symbol of oppression, and using it as a sign of liberation. They propose a return to the revolutionary spirit of early Christianity, highlighting the communal living and compassionate care of the impoverished by its followers. They basically want Christianity to remember and embrace its original revolutionary ideas. Now, I think they made a few fundamental errors. Some of the verses that they interpret to be communist, I want to read out loud, and then I want to interpret them, or rather just to see what the idea is. The verses are: all the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and the possessions to give to anyone who had need. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. John answered, anyone who has 2 shirts should share with the one who has none, and anyone who has food should do the same. And obviously one of the most famous ones is, the meek shall inherit the earth. Now, there are a lot of interpretations of this verse, the meek shall inherit the earth. If taken on face value, it basically says that the weak shall inherit the earth. But this is not the case, because only the smartest and most hard-working people normally inherit the earth. But like I said, the interpretation of this verse is very wide. Now, obviously this needs to be taken in context, but I feel that we would sit here for days if you want to interpret that. I feel that I can point out the problem of these interpretations of the verse as a collective in one sentence, or rather one paragraph. The stories of the Bible is basically told in 2 different manners, descriptive and prescriptive. And I feel many of the verses and themes that the communist Marxists discuss are taken as prescriptively, while many of them are actually intended only to be descriptive, such as the communal living conditions. An obvious contradiction is in the 10 Commandments it states that thou shalt not steal, which obviously proposes that there is private property. In terms of the origins of communism, you have Plato's Republic and some of his communist-esque ideas, same with Sir Thomas More's book, Utopia, having very prominent communist themes, and then obviously you have Karl Marx and all his works. But to put the Bible in this category, I do not see this as factually correct, because the only major theme that are given as evidence is that of communal living and some abstraction of shared goods. The rest is just caring for the poor and normal messianic tasks. To see Jesus as a proletarian and that making him communist is absurd. The Bible follows a hero motif, and in all major works of literature, they also follow this hero motif where this is the protagonist conquering the antagonist. And just because the communism follows the same type of storyline doesn't make the Bible inherently communist. It is quite indicative of human nature to have this overarching story where the hero comes to fruition, conquering the oppressor, or rather in more accurate terms, where he conquers what he deems to be his greatest struggle. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this topic and what other topics I can talk about. And I'm really enjoying this YouTube thing. Hope to see you again.